All right, everybody. We got a huge artist today. AJ Mitchell is hanging out at his hotel while I hang out at my hotel to talk about his life and music. So if you know, yeah, I mean, I know you got a new single out, cameras on, you got, new music. For those who haven't heard AJ Mitchell, he's recently passed the 1 billion stream mark on Spotify. He's a Vevo LIFT artist, MTV Push artist, has performed at the VMAs, Variety championed you as a Young Hollywood 2020 list. But before gaining 1 billion streams and selling out shows and performing on television, you grew up in a small town. Do you want to just take us back and let us know how you got into music?
Yeah. Just like you said, I came from a really small town. It's called Belleville, Illinois. And in this small town, there's nothing to do. Which is cool because it forces you to have to be creative and to explore and do things. So that's kind of what I did. I was an explorer. Like me and my friends, we would hop on our bikes, we would go and explore abandoned buildings. We would sneak into colleges to play basketball until we got kicked out. But if I couldn't be outside, then I was inside on the piano, practicing my songwriting. I started writing songs at the age of 6. I started playing the piano at like 4, and I just always loved it because of my dad, honestly. He was playing songs and writing songs and singing, and that inspired me to do it myself. So I just started doing it for fun, and it became a really big hobby of mine. And I just loved it so much. Like even to this day, obviously, I love it more than anything like in the world. Like for me, it's therapy. It's like a way to be creative. It's my escape from things. And honestly, that's kind of what it was in Belleville in a way as well, because it was such a small town. It was a good escape from reality and just to go back and write the things that I was experiencing at the time. Because Belleville, like I said, it's a small town. There's nothing to do, and with small towns, there's a lot of other shit that comes with it. Like a lot of people were getting into drugs, and a lot of people were having kids that were my age at the time and joining gangs, and there was a lot of that shit going around, and I didn't want to be involved with this. So that's kind of where music came in for me, and it was a good way to escape. And So I started doing music for a while, and then when I was 13, I really wanted everyone to know about it. I wanted my friends to know, my family. So I started posting my songs online just to see what people would think. And by doing that, I started to gain a good fan base from just like my town. Like my friends knew about it, and some people in my town who I didn't even know knew about me. And then I started to gain even more followers. I was getting shout outs from different singing pages on Instagram. And I accumulated like 80,000 followers when I was 13. And that's when I got reached out to. And then I got reached out to actually by Jake Paul. He reached out to me and he was like, I have a cool opportunity for you. You should move out to LA. And I ended up joining this group called Team 10. And I realized soon enough that wasn't really for me. I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be known as an artist, musician. And I ended up leaving Team 10, and I actually wrote Cameras On like a couple weeks later. And this was 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I kind of just rambled off into the whole thing, but
no, that's exactly what this podcast is for. That was an awesome, succinct summary there. Yeah. And, talking about a small town, they say what is it? Idle hands or the devil's workshop or something like that. And you said sometimes when there's nothing to do, you can get into trouble. Was your dad a musician or was he just a music lover?
He was a music lover. He's actually his real job is a nurse. So he's a nurse. He's on the front line right now. But I mean, he does music as a hobby. It's one of his passions. Like he writes music too, and he plays piano. So, but that's just for fun.
So since this was a few years ago, what was your social media platform that you started picking up traction on? Was it Instagram? Was it YouTube? Was it, if it was a few years ago, it might have even been Vine or was it TikTok? What was it?
It was Instagram. It was definitely Instagram. That's where I posted everything. Like, I think I got my first phone in like 7th grade or 8th grade or something. And my friends were like, get Instagram. And I was like, no, Facebook's where it's at. I didn't post anything at the time. I was just like exploring the internet. But then one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to post a video. like of me singing, just to see what my friends would think. And then I did. And then from that point on, I just used social media as a way for people to find who I am.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were able to generate like a lot of traction early on, which is great. So tell us about some of your collaborations, because you've been working with some pretty rad people, Steve Aoki, and I saw that you actually did a collaboration with Cheat Codes recently as well. We just had them on the podcast. That was a real fun one. So yeah. And but I know also you worked with executive producer Mike Dean, who's worked with some huge artists, Kanye West, etc. Tell us a little bit about how you met some of these people and how some of those collaborations got started.
Yeah. So I feel like in this age now, when it comes to collaborations, especially because everything's over the internet and that's how we find people, that's kind of normally how it starts. It's like, oh, I love this song. I know this singer is amazing. She'll sound really good on it. And that's kind of how the Ava Max collaboration came together. We love the song. Ava Max's voice is crazy, and it's just her voice is so good, and it's and obviously, yeah, we wanted her a part of the track. So it's kind of just like we reach out. It's like, hey, we would love for you to be a part of this if you want. And if they say yes, then we collaborate. And you know, the kind of the same thing happened with Megan Trainor. She reached out to me. She was like, yo, you would sound good on this. So it's like vice versa. Same thing with Steve Aoki. It was kind of just like they reach out and they're like, yo, you sound great. Like, would love to have you part of the track. And that's kind of how it gets started. And it's cool because then you meet amazing people along the way, which is awesome, which I love. That's why I love collaborations.
Do you still see like, do you get a DM from Megan Trainor or something like that? Or is it a little more formal? Is it like her management emails your management or something like that?
For her, like it was actually through management, and so it goes like behind the scenes. But she was always hitting me up like on DMs and saying like, "Oh, you crushed that performance. Your new song's great."
Nice.
And like we go back and forth. So like we're definitely friends.
Right. There was a little bit of a rapport there already, just kind of a mutual support online and that sort of thing.
100%.
That's awesome, dude. How was Steve Aoki? He seems like he'd be a fun guy. Was he partying in the in the studio?
He's so fun.
Was he throwing cakes?
yeah, pretty much. No, I mean honestly, when like obviously when you see like his image, you're like, he looks crazy and like, whoa. Yeah, he is, but he's also very humble. He's very humble. He's one of the nicest guys like ever. He's so freaking nice. And he's really cool. He's a really cool guy to hang out with. Like we did a performance together and he just makes it really comfortable and like fun. And you know, when you have that type of energy with someone, you create something really cool. And yeah, he's such a good guy to work with, and he's just a good guy overall.
Yeah, he seems like a fun guy. I mean, he's got to be. So many people have worked with him, and he's put out so much great music over the years, and really, you know, a lot of artists. Yeah, a lot of artists in that lane, like, you know, you because he's been doing it since, you know, like 2008 or even before that. You know, he was always known his name. Kind of going right. He was like all up in that party scene when like Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton were partying on Sunset Boulevard, you know. So he's been a professional partier for a while. Tell us a little bit about, because you're a young guy and you've crossed 1 billion streams. Like, does that just blow your mind sometimes?
It honestly, there's something about it that doesn't even feel real in a way. Because it's not tangible. Like I can't like hold the billion numbers and streams. It's just kind of like this number that kind of exists. And yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool, but it's hard to fathom that in a way. It's hard to be like, I actually streamed over 1 billion. Like it's really crazy to even understand it. Right.
I feel like it might take years for you to actually like for it to sink in, you know, and just be like, well,
yeah, I think so. I think it's gonna be those things. Yeah. For a couple of years, I'll be like, okay.
Talking about just things that are hard to imagine. Tell us what it was like performing at the VMAs, because that's kind of probably a bucket list for a lot of artists.
Yeah, that was wow. That was one of the coolest experiences of my life. Just because, I mean, obviously, VMAs, like to even perform at the VMAs, to even be at the VMAs is really cool. But to perform, that's just like a whole nother level. And I was also like in the like extra gum commercials, and it was just so cool. And it was like a whole entire, like, it looked like a movie. It looked like a movie.
Yep.
Like the performances, people were dancing. We had the whole crowd on stage. It was honestly a dream come true. It was a dream come true.
Was it just like the Avengers of the music industry backstage as you're walking around, just seeing like all these different, you know, legendary artists?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was actually filmed in a different location, so it wasn't at the place. It was filmed because it had to be in order to get
right.
Yeah.
Right. That's the world we're living in right now. So
yeah,
that's more and more common.
Yeah.
That's epic. Do you feel like you're getting more comfortable with these TV performances because you did the VMAs, you've done the Today Show, you know, are the nerves starting to like settle a little bit, or do you
100%.
feel that kind of energy every time?
Every time I do get a nerve, like I get a little bit of nerve type of energy, but every single time that I do TV or I do another show, performance, music video, it goes down a little bit each time it goes down. And I'm at a point now where before I used to be super nervous showing up to music videos or anything, to the point where I was like, almost didn't even want to do it. Now I use that nerves and I put that energy into motivation of like, I'm so excited to do this. And I really don't get nervous anymore. I get excited. I get excited.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that. I had a performance once. I'm in a band called the Eiffels, and I had a performance at the El Rey Theater, and it was a big crowd. And I had some and an actress friend of mine was there, and she saw that I took a shot, or maybe I was thinking about taking a shot just to like settle the nerves a little bit. And she was like, "No, you got to use that energy, like use the nervous energy." And ever since that, I've always remembered that. I'm like, yeah, like you said, you turn that energy into excitement, and you know, because you don't want to dull that energy, you can actually
100%.
use it,
and
then maybe have some drinks afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or a little hot toddy, you know, before you go up, a little one,
right?
A little bit of whiskey.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, because it's like that. Afterwards is when you kind of need to settle the nerves, but you want to give the people the energy.
100%. You want to go out there and see the best show ever.
So you tell us about the name of your full length, because I heard Skyview holds that title holds a special place as far as your hometown.
Yeah. So Skyview is actually a drive-in movie theater in my hometown. And you know, like I said, it's a small town, nothing to do. That was actually the place that I went like almost every week, like in the summer, like almost like I went there all the time, and it was so motivating for me. I think just because it kind of took me out of the world of Belleville, it put me into a different world. It put me into Skyview when I was there, and just watching the movies, listening to the soundtracks behind these movies. It made me motivated to be like, you know what? I want my music to be in a movie. I want to hear my music out there. I want to hear this. And so that's kind of what inspired me with Skyview, especially because Skyview is in my hometown, and I really want people to know with this album to really get to know who I am, and I think that starts with people knowing where I came from, because I think a lot of people don't really know.
That's a cool thing to do growing up nowadays. I mean, all of a sudden last year and this year, drive-ins have seen kind of a resurgence because of the pandemic and having regular movie theaters closed. But that's cool that you were doing that just because that was one of the main things that you could do in town. So a drive-in was still kind of a thing that was going on in your town, huh? Yeah,
it was super cool. I could walk to it. It was like 5 minutes down the street from me.
That's awesome. So, and for those who don't, your hometown it's like just out. It's a few hours out from Chicago, right? In Illinois.
It's 6 hours south of Chicago. So it's like really out there. It's really far away.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, AJ, I've read some of your influences, you know, Justin Timberlake, Stevie Wonder, Bruno Mars, Marvin Gaye, and even like the Beatles. But the music's really great, man. It's you're putting out some high quality stuff, and I know you know, working with epic producers like Mike Dean, who's worked with Travis Scott and Tupac. Even did he have any interesting? Did you ever ask him if he had any stories about Tupac?
I actually haven't got to that point yet, but like, there's definitely times where he brings up stories about Kanye and like other things, and I'm just like, whoa, this is insane. And there's like him and Kanye back when Mike Dean was like really young and he had long hair. And I was like, I don't even know what kind of machinery that is in that photo. It was crazy because it was just so long time ago. I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah.
And he was creating
that's crazy.
some of the best music ever, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome to work with someone who has all those memories floating around in there, you know, all that inspiration.
Exactly. And it's really cool, especially because from his background, you know, he comes from the hip hop world. And and you know, obviously I love hip hop, and like a lot of my influences are from hip hop as well, like Lil Wayne and Eminem as well. But it's also like when I originally wrote these songs by myself or with other co-writers, and then we brought those songs to Mike Dean. So it's kind of cool because you get like a little pop flavor, and then with like some R&B melodies and like kind of my style, and then you have Mike Dean come in and put you know, add his flavor to it, and it's just this really cool, this really amazing sound. The only thing I can compare it to is like Justin Timberlake and Timbaland.
Wow, yeah, that's an epic. That's a legendary combo right there. Yeah. So speaking of your sound, why don't you tell us just a little bit about Cameras On? Because that's your newest single, and I'd love to hear about that.
Absolutely. So I wrote that song 3 years ago, once I left Team 10, and kind of what I was telling you earlier. Yeah. And the reason it's called Cameras On is because every time the cameras were on in the house, everyone was different. Everyone was smiling, happy, and everyone was your friend, and it was cool. Like, I've known you for 1,000 years. But then as soon as the cameras were off, the smiles went down. And then no one was friends. No one was talking to each other. Everyone was on their phones. And we all lived together. So it was just this weird dynamic. And I came from a small town and then went to LA, and just this whole dynamic, it was super weird to me. It was super fake. Nothing felt real. Sure. Like it all felt like it wasn't real. It was really weird for me. And the only thing that kind of, you know, took me out of that world, like music did when I was in Belleville, were my true friends and music. And that's kind of what the song's about.
Yeah, that's what because I know you mentioned that you wrote that right after you left, so I didn't want to assume, but I figured like there might be some sort of some meaning like that behind it, and yeah, man, LA's a trip sometimes, but and you know, everyone out here, the entertainment industry is out here, and you know, there's that side of it. A lot of great people out here in LA though too, as I'm sure you've found, as you've talked about. Yeah. I mean,
like just anywhere, you know, there's the good and the bad in every situation.
100%. Well, AJ, it was really an honor to talk to you, man. I'm so glad that you took the time to stop by and tell us your story. It's an amazing story so far, and I have a feeling it's just getting started, but what a start it is. Absolutely. We like to end the interview by asking, if you had one piece of advice to offer aspiring artists, what would it be?
Aspiring artists, my one piece of advice that I would say is, once you start replacing those negative thoughts with positive thoughts, you'll start seeing positive results. That's my one piece of advice.
It's great advice, man. Just, you know, you gotta keep your brain goes to what you're thinking about. So clear away that bad stuff.
Exactly.
Bringing it backward.